Libya's new rulers have named a new cabinet to govern the country until it's fully secured. The National Transitional Council now controls most of the country, but there are still pockets of heavy resistance. After a two-day ceasefire to allow residents to leave, anti-Gaddafi troops continue attacks on his besieged hometown of Sirte. The Red Cross is warning of a humanitarian crisis as the town runs out of essential supplies. Now, for more details on this, we're now joined by Tue Oct, a spokesperson for the International Committee of the Red Cross, live in Tripoli. Thank you for joining us. So you've been to the town of Sirte. How bad is the situation that you've seen?
Well, our team went to Sirte, as you know, on Saturday to deliver urgently needed assistance to the hospital. We managed to get in the hospital and spend few hours to check on the hospital. However, the security situation did not allow us to move inside the town and see the situation of the civilians. We managed to talk to representatives of the civilians to understand the situation. They talk about lack of food, lack of water, there is no electricity, there is a lack of fuel in the city, and there is a very difficult access to medical care. The hospital has been working under very difficult conditions. There is a lack of medical personnel, no medical equipment, no drugs, no medicine, and as well there is no electricity inside the hospital, and the water tank has been hit, so there is no water available in the hospital. Now, at the same time, while talking to families going out of the city of Sirte, I have been on the eastern side where I've talked to families displaced to the desert around Sirte or to villages like Harawa and other surrounding villages, and my colleagues from the west as well are looking at the internally displaced families. These people as well are living in difficult conditions because they are leaving just their houses to flee the ongoing fighting in the city of Sirte, and they are being displaced into the desert, living in difficult hygienic conditions and having no access to medical care and no potable water.
So as you say, and as other representatives from the Red Cross say, a humanitarian crisis is certainly in the making. It's unfolding, as you said, in Sirte and in surrounding towns as well. But when it comes to, you mentioned that the security situation makes it difficult to treat many of the patients. Are some of the civilians, are many of the civilians even casualties in this ongoing war? Because we've had reports that some of NATO's bombing has been indiscriminate, even hitting schools and hospitals.
Well, for the International Committee of the Red Cross, at this stage, we don't have clear statistics on the figures. Even in the hospital of Ibn Sina, we did not manage to tour the hospital to know, about the numbers of casualties and the situation inside the hospital. The security situation did not allow us to stay longer. We went back to Ibn Sina hospital yesterday and we delivered the urgently needed oxygen because there was no oxygen at all inside the hospital, and we delivered yesterday as well other medical equipment. Now, for the International Committee of the Red Cross, we have been calling upon all parties to the conflict to spare as much as possible the civilian people and to always distinguish between military and civilian targets.
If I may just jump in for a moment, as you were saying, the Red Cross is absolutely involved in treating the civilians and the patients and those wounded in this ongoing war campaign. But I wanted to ask you, it's interesting that, NATO's plan, the whole UN resolution, in fact, NATO's press statement is, according here, NATO's mission is to protect civilians and civilians in populated areas under attack or under threat of attack. Have you seen, other than the bombing campaigns, have you seen NATO engaged in any types of humanitarian activities other than the Red Cross, of course?
Well, it's not up to the International Committee of the Red Cross to comment on such issues. For us, the biggest concern is the deterioration of the humanitarian situation, as well as the protection of civilians under the international humanitarian law. And all parties to the conflict in Libya today are obliged to respect their obligations under the international humanitarian law, to respect the civilians and to spare civilians' lives as much as possible.
Understood. Now, with claims of violence ongoing on both sides, there are also reports that Gaddafi loyalists are using civilians as human shields. Is that the kind of tactic that you've heard about?
For us, again, we look for the protection of civilians, and when it comes to discussing these issues, the protection of civilians or any violations against international humanitarian law, we do this bilaterally in a confidential manner with the authorities who are supposedly in charge of these things. And what is of utmost importance for us is that the civilian lives be spared and that the parties to the conflict respect their obligations, again, under the humanitarian law.
All right, Tue Oct of the International Committee of the Red Cross, live in Tripoli. Many thanks indeed.